So to make these measurements for the burial sites massacre, we're going to use Carlton here. This is a clone. You can get it off of eBay. Now, this is where the killings took place. Down here is where they're camped. Right here is Hamblin. Okay. That road from Pinto comes out this way. You should be able to see it. So when Carlton went out, this is where he found most of the men's bones. And then I'll show you another picture. There's right up here is where the women and children's bones are found. Right up here is the rim of the basin. And this is where the water flows this way or out this way. And this was a little funny word for the Mormons, rim of the basin. You would take someone over the rim of the basin, kind of like Americats and Missouri Wildcats. You have these cute words. So taking a Gentile over the rim of the basin was a way of killing somebody, of blood atoning somebody, of doing unpleasant tasks. So maybe this is clear. You can see this drainage here. This is draining this way, and over here it's draining this way. And this whole area is called Mountain Meadows. So in my trying to figure it out, I stood right down here in this turnout and videotaped along here thinking it was in this area. But here is where I've been showing you. You can see this path here. I don't know. A lot of stuff you see from the air you don't see when you're there, but this could be a remnant of the original road. I'm not saying it is. But anyhow, in here, and right up in here, is where the killings would have taken place. So where were the Dunlop girls? Were they in this ravine? I've tried to figure that out. I kept looking down in here. You know, see? There's oak in here. Probably in here, but when you look at Josiah Gibbs, when I do, I keep going down in this area. So I'm about 1,100 feet over it on Google Earth. This is where the women were killed, right? And then right up here would be where the men were killed. So all these bones were then carted back and buried. In this area is where the Mormons would meet to conspire their dirty work. This would be the California road coming up through here. They're camped over here. I've skewed this over quite a bit. So these are the mountains, the hills they used to shoot from. They were down in here. I'm still not convinced they were camped on this side. This was much less eroded than, I think it was about 6 feet deep maybe, and it was probably more of a like that. In any case, I can see no reason to cross through here and camp on this side when you're going to take 1,000 head of cattle and 30 wagons, 140 people, and go through this twice to get back up in here. I just am wondering if they weren't really in this area and they were shot at this way. And here, and here, here. This is about 600 feet. And out to this one is about 600 feet. And I think the Indians were up in here, kind of, luring around, and possibly around here, but I think they were right back in here. So why was John D. Lee prosecuted and not someone else? One of my ideas is, in reading these Mormon documents, these letters, George A. Smith makes a remark in regards to a called an investigation of this, that no one dreamed that such and such would happen. John D. Lee was always having dreams, and he saw this as God ordained, and so the plans were changed. They were going to be further south. He changed the plans, probably based on a dream. That when he says, and others say that this he saw as a perfect God-ordained setup. He saw it, as you will, a vision, and thus he became the responsible agent. That's one of my takes. Now, when you read Mormon documents, like Brigham Young's letters, they're odd. I'm not going to get into it here, but what matters is sort of in line 4 or 5, and he makes this other remarks on top and bottom, and because you speak Mormonese, you know how to ferret out these, not just the odd placement of sentences, but what the odd words mean. Here's an example. Here. You can read this. He starts off with the stuff with Van Fleet and what's going on. Then he gets down to the meat. And here's a supposed letter. I'll photograph it. And you know, it's here. It says, in regards to the immigrants passing through our settlements, we must not interfere with them, etc. And then he ends up with some other stuff. Well, it's not just the words, it's what the words mean. If you think that means anything, just remember it was Briggy that showed up a couple years later, raised his right arm in the angle for the Freemason. All the little guys jumped off their wagons and tore the cairn apart. That's all Brigham had to do. That's how much that letter meant. He didn't have to say a word, and that's written in Mormon diaries, which really aren't worth very much, but in this circumstance it does tell the truth. And I say they aren't worth very much because many of them are simple constructions to fabricate a story. They're written after the fact. They use the same phraseology to conceal the same crimes.